Why does life suddenly feel harder when you start your spiritual awakening? When my own awakening started, everything I thought was stable, my job, relationships, and even my identity was tested. And I see the same thing happen with my clients again and again. But here's the truth that most people miss. Chaos isn't punishment. It's how the universe pushes you to evolve. So in this video, I'm going to break down the real reasons behind these challenges, how to recognize the universe's tests, and give you a powerful tool to move through this phase with clarity so you can stop feeling lost and start seeing the deeper purpose behind it all. To start, let me show you what it looks like when a spiritual awakening shakes up both your inner world and everything around you. Most of us on the spiritual path don't choose to awaken. We kind of get shoved into it, often by a crisis or some event that flips our world upside down, something that is fully outside of our control. And of course, sure, some of us may, have dabbled in spirituality, meditation, consciousness, reading about consciousness, but often than not, there is a specific event that just shakes us up so hard, we can't ignore it. It flips our life upside down, and this kicks off our awakening. Suddenly, you start seeing cracks in the foundation of who you thought you were, and it's like the universe hands you a giant mirror and says, look at your shadows, look at your fears, look at your beliefs and your wounds and your ego, see what you've been hiding from yourself. And this kicks off a storm of internal conflict. You start to question everything, your identity, your values, your beliefs, your desires, even your sanity. I've had 2 spiritual awakenings in my life, but the biggest and the most profound one was initiated by my previous romantic relationship. And this relationship triggered every fear, every trauma, every belief and attachment and value and, illusion that I had. And it was through this relationship and everything that it triggered that I was faced with myself. This relationship served as the biggest mirror for me that reflected back to me my own beliefs, expectations, fears, values, traumas, and desires. But here's the crazy thing. As your inner world gets shaken up, your outer world starts to follow. So you may notice that relationships start to get rocky and people might say, you're different, you're changing, I don't recognize you, your job may become unbearable. And the best way that I can put it is it's as if life is now on steroids and everything feels louder, harsher, and more intense. It feels like problems multiply and friction in your life ramps up. And it can really feel like the universe is piling on challenges, testing you from every direction. But why? Why is that? It's because you gain deeper awareness. Because you gain deeper awareness, life mirrors it back to you, right? So the universe isn't punishing you. It's actually reflecting your new consciousness, showing you what's no longer a match for who you're becoming. So it feels like everything is falling apart. And because you're waking up, the chaos of your old life is now clashing with your new awareness. The same way that my previous relationship served as a big wake up for me and created lots of internal conflicts within myself, I also began to experience external conflict. So more arguments, disagreements, clashings of, priorities and values and desires. As I was faced with deeper insights of what is important to me, what I needed to let go of, my trauma, what I was not okay with, my priorities, all of that resulted in external conflicts. Hence why during this part of an awakening, it feels like our new awareness and insights begin to clash with our external world. So what can you do when your awakening makes it seem like everything familiar is suddenly working against you? When you start waking up, you don't just change your perspectives and gain deeper insights. You also trigger every hidden fear and attachment and belief that's been quietly running your life. It's like your awakening shines a spotlight into every dusty corner of your mind, and suddenly you can see all the, dirt and cobwebs you didn't know were there. And I actually remember very vividly when I started my spiritual awakening, I had this really weird dream where I was standing in an empty room of this really old house, and there was this really, really big lamp. So I walked over to the lamp, I took it and then I took that lamp and I shined it onto a wall. And then all of these weird bugs and insects and spiders started to crawl from the corners of the house towards that spotlight. And I remember how unsettling and creepy it was. And I actually shared it with my coach at the time with whom I was working. And she said, you know, I'm pretty sure that your dream is signifying the fact that you are going deep into your mind and subconscious, all of these dark corners where everything is hidden, everything is suppressed, and, you know, all of these fears and everything that was hiding is now being brought to light. You're shining a light on it. And this dream really made a lasting impression on me. So your awakening also amplifies not only your fears, but your attachments. An attachment is when you cling to something so hard, like your job, a relationship, a way of life, a belief, because you tied your safety and your comfort and security and identity to it. So you might think, if I lose this, I'm gonna lose myself. Or if this changes, I won't be okay. Then this fear might show up the second that a certain attachment is threatened. So the voice in your mind is going to say, don't change, stay where you are because it's safe and it's too risky. So these attachments and these fears work together like emotional Velcro, right? Keeping you stuck to an old reality that's no longer aligned with who you're becoming. And this is where the real test of your awakening happens. So it's not just about whether you can meditate more or read more spiritual books or, you know, work on your enlightenment, so to say. It's about whether you can loosen your grip on the very things your ego thinks you must have to be okay. And here's the paradox. The more attached you are, the more life will seem to push those exact things to the edge. It's like the universe is saying, are you ready to let go of this? Or are you going to shrink back into your old self and not let go of these attachments? During my awakening, this came into effect with my romantic relationship at the time. I was so attached. I was so desperately gripping onto it, terrified at the thought that it might end, but at the same time knowing that there were many things in my relationship that were not working, they did not feel right for me, and they were really not for my highest good. And I knew that something needed to change, but my attachment was so strong, my desperate need for love was so strong, and my fear was overpowering. So I gripped, and the more I gripped, the more attached I was, and the more friction and pain life was giving me through this relationship. So how can you stop all this pain and actually pass the tests that the universe throws at you during your awakening? When the universe tests you, it's never random. The test is almost always poking the exact fear or attachment that's been quietly holding you back. So as I mentioned earlier, if you feel like life is ripping away your safety blanket, this is why. There is a tool that I created about 5 years ago, and now I give it to my clients. And this tool can help you spot those attachments and see the fears underneath them, and, you know, and then it allows you to evaluate it. Some of those attachments is what life and the universe is asking you to let go of or to bring awareness to. And this exercise is inspired by shadow work. So shadow work is simply the process of bringing the hidden parts of yourself into the light. The fears, beliefs, attachments, patterns that have been unconsciously, running in the background. Carl Jung called the shadow the part of ourselves we do not wish to see. So this exercise that I'm about to share with you will help you see certain attachments and fears and your blind spots clearly, and hopefully reveal some of those lessons that the universe may be trying to teach you. I call this tool the Attachment Clarity Table. And to do this exercise, you can get a piece of paper or a notebook, or you can actually even open a blank document or an Excel page on your computer and create a table with different columns. So I'm going to explain columns one by one and how to fill them in. The first column is going to be attachment. So attachments are the things you're holding on to really tightly. It can be your current job, a relationship, a view that you cling to, for example, needing to be liked by others, or the need for love, or the need to please people. The second column is going to be how it makes me feel. And you need to be specific here. How does this attachment make you feel? Does it make you feel secure, loved, proud, comforted, peaceful. This is going to reveal the emotional payoff keeping you hooked to this attachment. The third column is going to be, who would I be without it? So imagine if your life, if in your life this attachment vanished or was taken away. And this can bring up both. It can bring up deep fears, but also positive emotions. So how would you feel if your partner, let's say, broke up with you suddenly? How would you feel if you suddenly stopped getting validation from your family or coworkers? How would you feel if you suddenly stopped people pleasing? You might feel fear. The fourth column is, what qualities would you need to step into if these attachments were gone? If you don't have a romantic partner anymore to validate you, would you have to validate yourself? If other people are not praising you but criticizing you now, would you need to accept and love yourself no matter what? I actually listened to a really interesting podcast a couple of weeks ago when I was on the plane with Scooter Braun. And Scooter Braun was Justin Bieber's manager, and he was the one who discovered Justin Bieber. And Scooter talked about the fact that how his whole life he tried to be perfect, and he wanted to be liked and praised and admired. And he had this persona that he was kind of like playing this mask, that he was confident and everybody liked him and adored him and he was this perfect guy. And then one day there was a scandal a couple of years ago, and every news outlet and every person online was criticizing him and hating him. And he said that it was incredibly difficult because it kind of shattered everything, but at the same time it was the biggest growth opportunity that he had, because he realized that he was living for other people's validations and acceptance. And one day people love you and the other day people hate you, and you need to love and approve of yourself, because the outside noise will change and it's fully outside of your control. The fifth column is going to be, what scares me about losing this attachment? So write your fears without censoring them. What scares you about losing your attachment to pleasing people? What scares you about losing your attachment to a marriage, let's say, that even though feels comfortable, may already be outdated and lacking love? The point of this exercise is not to rip everything out of your life and let go of all the attachments. It's to become conscious of what's been unconsciously controlling you. It's to become aware of the attachments that you are holding on to and that life and the universe may be rocking up and challenging. Because here's the thing, once you can name your attachments and see the fear beneath them and see those blind spots and the emotional payoff that it's giving you, they start to lose some of their power. And then it's up to you to evaluate and see what you want to keep and what you may need to fully let go of. One of my favorite quotes is by Carl Jung, and he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So when you do this work, this inner self-awareness work, the tests of the universe stop feeling like random punishments. Instead, you recognize them as training grounds, as challenges perfectly designed to help you release what you no longer need. You stop fighting the process and start passing the tests because you understand what they're actually trying to teach you. At the time of my awakening, I really couldn't see it, but now in hindsight, years later, that's exactly what it was. It was training grounds, and it was the perfect challenges designed specifically for me to help release what I no longer needed. When you start to awaken, life gets louder inside and out, because the universe is reflecting your new awareness back to you. The chaos isn't a punishment, it's an invitation to grow. And with the tool that I just shared, you now have a way to move through these tests with more clarity and awareness and confidence. And if you find yourself struggling with intrusive thoughts during these tests and your spiritual awakening, watch this video next, where I share with you a powerful practice to help you quiet your mind.